As a lot of us know, Juggernaut is well, I wouldn't say behemoth. He is a big character. He is definitely extra large. He's extra chunky, and at the same time, he should do a lot of damage. Which he does not. I'm pummeling this Winter Soldier and hoping for the best. Going into an SP2 with an Unawakened version. And I've done very much no damage. Yes, I'm expecting a little bit more from Unawakened Rank 1 unbuffed version. You bet your sweet bippy I am. But let's see what Kabam are planning to do with this champion's buff when it drops next week. So first of all, let's have a look, and we'll be kind of going between the game, what is current, what is planned. So currently, there's nothing to write home about. When you're attacked, you get a Fury buff. Is it going to play into the way this champion works? Stagger off the heavy attacks. Handy as an interactional based thing, especially to suppress buffs. But apart from that, there's nothing really going on for it when it comes to, again, the great amount of damage that you would expect from this particular champion. So Kabam tee this up as being a champion that is Unstoppable Force. Stack your Unstoppables for more attack and increased power rate. Stay aggressive and always moving. Build to max Unstoppable and unleash massive special attacks. I kind of hope this isn't a champion that's all about being hit and kind of reducing health to then be more stronger, because that's, I mean, look, that's like Mole Man is to a degree, but I don't know where this will take it. Basic abilities on this one will be the Crimson Gem of Cyttorak, which again makes sense on the kind of lineage and backstory. Unstoppable, Unblockable, and Fury. With the strength being to his Unstoppable, but also buff stacking. Unstoppable each count as a buff. SP1 gives Energize and SP2 a Fury, so Juggernaut can easily stack buffs. Sounds good, especially to add Energize. So I guess it's all about, ferocious rotations. I love that. Ferocious rotations of damage through that kind of like SP1 to then SP2 kind of split a narrative and grind. So it's great to give more purpose, and including the fact it goes a bit above and beyond with the Crimson Gem of Cyttorak. So again, playing into that kind of past of what Cyttorak is to this character and its strengths and stuff like that. Juggernaut starts a fight with the Crimson Gem of Cyttorak active. The gem is disabled if Juggernaut suffers a non-damaging debuff, so that could be something you kind of look to counter this champion, or is knocked down while the Cyttorak gem is disabled. Juggernaut suffers a 50% weakness passive, but while the gem is active, Juggernaut is empowered and gains the following: 1173 attack rating, plus 25% damage reduction, and immunity to reverse controls. Yes! Well done, Kabam! Another immunity champion to reverse controls. Yes. So that clap there is for Kabam. This I think is really important because it also plays into a really cool dynamic of, I think it was Charles Xavier, who is the technical brother of Juggernaut, he wasn't able to use any of his psychic manipulation or telepathy because of the helmet that was worn. So I think this is an amazing thing, having another counter to inverted controls. That's kind of like reverse controls. Inverted controls, reverse controls. I don't know. It may be same thing. But in any case, this gives plenty of extra options. It gives options for paths where there's been reverse controls. And it's good to see more champions having that immunity to that particular thing. And also, so far, there looks to be more added to the kit of Juggernaut to make him interact very positively and also give that stack of damage and damage reduction. So it's good to see more being done for what is a very kind of slimline nothing ability that the champion currently has. And the dev note is that Juggernaut's biggest lever of power is the Cyttorak. You need to keep this up at all times in order to get the most power out of him, or take it off as soon as possible when fighting against him. So that's kind of the emphasis there. Going to have to be very important to mention, especially if he's put in as a boss at some stage. But sadly, with all that great power comes playing well. And playing well means that gaining unstoppable buffs, which is each time he dashes or lands an attack, he gets an unstoppable buff, but loses one unstoppable buff each time he is hit, enters a block, or blocks an attack. So you will need to, what seems to be just kind of moving on the intercept or being aggressive. And this is the thing that I'm a bit wary of, and that is the damage you're going to receive as a result. So it'll be interesting to see next week the kind of play style that comes around this. Unstoppable buffs decrease by 1 every 1.25 seconds. This timer is reset each time an unstoppable is added or removed, or when Juggernaut dodges backwards. So I guess it's going to be dashes. It's either going to be like dashes back, you gain an unstoppable buff, and dashes forward. I guess in a similar kind of way that you might play Kitty Pryde in order to kind of like build up stuff with her. Not 100% like that, but what I'm giving you is the example of you will need to be doing this kind of like dashing motion, whether it be forward or back, in order to you know, build up the unstoppable. And whether or not you can like stay unstoppable or stay kind of like rigid to then kind of like play aggressively. But again, it's going to be about that risk to reward on, will you be losing health quite considerably if you are just standing there taking damage in an unstoppable, with unstoppable buffs up, and trying to build by that way. So there's a lot of questions I still have, and I definitely need to see it next week. But again, it still goes down to purpose for this particular champion, and definitely by looking at things like when you're attacked. When part of the old kit was that you get a chance to get a Fury buff for 6.5 seconds. Now it's a case of like if you are going to be taking that damage, and as well if you've got some sort of armor rating improvement, like will that be part of the kit as well, or will it be part of the baseline stats of the attributes to say, okay, well, you're able to withstand damage in that unstoppable form and still be able to be aggressive, which is going to be part of this kind of like Cyttorak build, unstoppable build, and as well the damage potential. But EG Unstoppable has an attack rating of 234.6, you know, depending on the champion rarity. Increase in power rate, so we had to build power to special attacks, and lowers the opponent's chance to trigger stun debuffs by 20% if the ability prevents a stun debuff from triggering. Juggernaut loses 7 unstoppable buffs. Man, that could be really bad. Stack as many unstoppable buffs as you can and get some massive damage bonuses. Well, good. That's going to be great. There is going to be the ability Maximum Momentum, which is while Juggernaut has 10 unstoppable, he gains unblockable passive, making his next block attack. I mean, that's good. If you got 10 unstoppable, you can create a really kind of decent momentum. After that, in maximum momentum, unblockable attack, Juggernaut is unable to gain his unstoppable buff for 7 seconds and places a wither debuff on the opponent, reducing power rate by 50% for 10 seconds. Well, that's interesting enough utility. I guess but again, this is down to like an aggressive play for this champion. Heavy attacks have 100% chance to stagger the opponent. Again, that's good. That's part of the kit that still remains from the old into the new, which is heavy attacks, 100% chance to stagger the opponent. The next time it triggers, blah, 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 immediately nullified. But also, there's a little bit more interacts with the Crimson Gem of Cyttorak, which is inflicts an additional stagger. So you get 2 staggers for your time and the opportunity. And there's been no nerf on that stagger time frame. It's still 8 seconds. The special attacks now, and activate the Crimson Gem of Cyttorak if it's disabled. That's good. It gives you an opportunity to kind of like, yeah, just kind of like put it back on again and also gain those kind of like attack rating improvements. Gain an energized buff for 10 seconds, granting 25% of an increased combat power. That's good. Again, as it said, like the idea is that you take the champion as being like the SP1, then you try and do an SP2 right off the bat. The reason being that while maximum momentum is active, there's a 100% chance to gain a Fury buff, granting 4,692 attack rating. So if you've got the SP1, you do an SP2 to get that rating. If you are in Cyttorak, your Cyttorak, Gem of Cyttorak active, then you'll gain the, where is it, the 1,173 attack rating at the same time. So, and also damage reduction. So the mode you want to be, it seems like you want to be in that mode as well, because you're reducing down damage. So therefore you can be aggressive, and therefore you being aggressive, you build the unstoppable, and that then means that you can get to the extent of maximum momentum and do SP2s as I was doing the SP1 to build energize. It looks like a fun champion, I must admit, from this particular build. But the SP3, what's on that? When active, the Crimson Gem of Cyttorak cannot be removed for 20 seconds. Great, again, for building momentum. But it's funny because maximum momentum. It's really weird because a lot of times I do say damage, speed, and momentum. Momentum is important for aggressive play in Marvel Contest. Inflict a stun debuff on the opponent for 4 seconds. Handy if you're in that mode. Be aggressive to come out of SP3. And as well as signature ability, which is the weakness passive from the Crimson Gem of Cyttorak is reduced by 5% and becomes a debuff instead. All attacks have a 3% chance per unstoppable buff to nullify a buff from the opponent. Wow, that could be really helpful. It's kind of like the long shot signature ability in that it does something, but it doesn't do like a huge amount of things. Depending on how this scales to the 3%, it's like saying, Is it going to be 100% at the end of it? That's something to find out down the line, how effective that is in dealing with things like the buffs. But from what I see so far, it does look relatively good. Even better with one of the synergies, which is with Juggernaut, Unstoppable, and Unstoppable Colossus. So Juggernaut gets in any case. Start the fight with 3 Unstoppable buffs active. That's a great start. That starts you off really solidly to deal with building up those Unstoppables and getting the damage you need, and also going into just like utilizing the gem of Cyttorak, and as well kind of doing the rotations of SP1 and then SP2. The energize of the SP1 and SP2. If you want to deal with buffs on enemies, do a heavy attack or have a high signature version. Either way, this does look pretty impressive. I would hope down the line I awaken my Juggernaut. I really do. So yeah, that has been a little video dissecting and going over this particular buff. I think it looks really solid. It does look really good. It would just be about testing out the champion to be the, is it going to be like as good as the likes of Colossus, as well as Venom, and a lot of the early buffs, and Magneto that did so well, or is this going to fall by the wayside? I love the little immunity to reverse controls. That could be really helpful for certain content, including going up against the Grand Master, which I think this champion would be, sounds like he's going to be very good at doing, or any kind of like champion boss. Yeah, pretty excited to kind of like play this champion out. What are your thoughts? Put it in the comment section down below. Are you hyped for this, or are you reserved, waiting for next week to see how good it is? Thoughts in the comment section down below. Thank you very much for watching. Make sure as well to check out some other content, which is located, boom, on screen right now. Check out some of the other updates and information from around that I've kind of posted, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye for now.